My first day of kindergarten, I cried and hid under a table the entire day. All the kids were there, everybody was there. I asked if I could go home so many times. And back then, I was terrified of people, and I never really grew out of it. And that wasn't a one time thing either. 6 months later, I was still in the back of the class, hiding under a table, just watching. And luckily, some kid was able to get me out of the table and eventually became my friend. But I was still terrified of people and terrified of interacting with people, and I was for a really long time. I still am a little, but I'm much better off than I was then. And that is mostly due to card tricks. And today I'm going to tell you how I overcame my social anxiety with card tricks and how I would do it again if I was you. So this goes all the way back to literally kindergarten, the first time I had to interact with people. And I couldn't make a friend. I was terrible at any sort of conversation. And eventually I learned card tricks when I was around like 9, 10 to try to make friends because I was really bad at talking with them. So my idea was, what if I learn how to do this really cool thing that attracts people? And that would be how I make friends. So I spent all this time, I must have spent 3 months, 4 months, 6 months learning all these card tricks. And when the day came, I started showing the people. They were very interested. People that never talked to me before started to talk to me. But as soon as I put the cards away, they stopped talking to me. They only cared about my tricks, which makes sense because that was the only thing that people liked me for. So after that, I quit for a really long time. I think it must have been like 3 or 4 years. And then I started learning card tricks again. I think it was when I was around 15. And I was just drawn to it for whatever reason. I probably failed some other project that I was working with, and I just wanted to practice something that I was good at. So I kept learning and kept learning, kept learning until eventually I got okay at a couple of tricks, good enough that only a magician would see through it, which luckily almost no one's a magician. So I started going up to random people very anxiously, I might add. I would like sit there for like 20 minutes, like, hey, you want to see a card trick? And I'd show them. They get super hyped. I'd show them another one, and it would go really well. And I did that a couple more times until eventually, each time I did it, I started to get less and less anxiety. And I still have a little bit of anxiety when it comes to showing people things, but not nearly as much as I did. And I'm sure if I kept doing that, then eventually there would be almost none. And the only time that I get anxiety would be if there was like some guy that was just trying to make me have a bad time. But even then, after you deal with enough of those guys, you'll know your way around the park. And that's basically how I did that. How I started to overcome my social anxiety and pretty much did. But it was really slow, really nerve wracking, and it wasn't smooth at all. As you could tell with this story, there was a giant gap. But if I wanted to overcome social anxiety with card tricks, what I would do is I would learn one flourish. A flourish is like anything that looks nice. So a trick is something where you're trying to trick them. You're trying to get them to not know how you did that thing. Like they put a card in the middle of the deck, you get it to the top. Stuff like that. A flourish is just something that looks nice. There's Charlier cut, which is just a cut that is in one hand. There's civil. There's all these different flourishes. You can find super easy ones that you can learn in like an hour. I'd recommend Kalush's cut. You probably learn that in 2 hours. And then I would just start doing it in public. Not even not even like trying to show people. Just sit there and do it in public, and you will be shaking in your boots. You'll be so scared if you are anything like me that people are looking at you, that you're going to drop the cards, that you're going to make a fool of yourself, that you're going to do this, that, or the other. And you might, but no one will care, and most people don't even see, to be honest. Like I've done a ton of card tricks, or not card tricks, but I've done a ton of flourishes just in public, and no one looks at you. No one looks at them. And I know it's not because the card tricks are boring or the flourishes are boring. As soon as somebody does look, they're like, "Whoa, how'd you do that?" Like for 30, 20 minutes. Like no one's even paying attention. They don't care. And most people are so like in their own world, even if they do see you, like they have anxiety too. They don't want to say something to you. They don't want to make fun of you. They don't want to be outcasted just like you. And after you've been doing flourishes for a while, what once was shaking in your boots, now you can just do it. You can start doing flourishes in public. You can start practicing whatever card trick in public, and you won't even care if you drop cards. It's part of the game. And after that, some people, they might even ask you, like often when you are doing card flourishes in public, especially when I was at school, people would just straight up ask me, it's like, hey, can you show me a card trick? Because you're doing a flourish. And in their mind, they're like, whoa, that's pretty impressive. I bet you're a full blown magician, which you might be, you might not be, but they'll ask you nonetheless. And after that, like after that starts happening, and you're just like, no, I don't really learn one. Learn one that you can do in front of someone that's reliable, that you can do with your eyes closed, even when you're shaking, even when you're nervous, and do it next time somebody asks. And then eventually people will start asking you, and then you can just do it. And that will be nerve wracking again, but it gets easier and easier and easier until eventually you can go on to the final step. You can just start asking people like, hey, you want to see a card trick? And you don't have to be like, yeah, I'm so smart. I'm tricking all these people. Like if you come across as somebody that just wants to share something that's neat, then a lot of people, they'll either politely decline, like, yeah, that sounds neat. And that's what I've done. I'm not a very showy magician. I'm not incredibly charismatic. I just show them stuff that's cool. I come up with a little story for the trick, and that's it. That's where it ends. Just a normal person that knows card tricks, and that's all you need to be a magician. Like, or you could just show your family, friends. You don't need to show other people. You could literally show no one. You just keep it to yourself. And like, wow, these cards move in funny ways. But that's how I would learn card tricks, and that's how I would learn to overcome my social anxiety if I were to do it again. I think it's easy. I think it's relatively fast. And I think it's really not nerve wracking for somebody who is introverted like me. So, if you're anything like me, I think that will help you in spades. I hope this helps someone. That's it for this one. Have a wonderful night.